They're now leaking.
Well, we did file a claim, and we did get some.
We got a little money.
We got some interior damage. So we
That's-
filed claims.
We
on
only
all-
got, we only got claims for
Some interior
damage
damage.
to the building, but not replacement costs.
Correct. It's not like shake roofs where you do get hail damage around here. We probably would, if we had a bad hailstorm on this building, we probably would get it replaced by insurance. The flat foam, you can't say the hail damaged this foam. This foam's been dead for.
Yes.
My name is Scott Rainey. You have my statement that I emailed you today, that the email list that had cooperated, and we had 2 meetings prior to this to discuss, possible options. And it doesn't ask for to just give up the assessment, only to delay it until we can either work out the payment terms, which you say is difficult to do, but there may be something that we could do. Obviously, you could do something because you did break it in 2. You could have broken it into 4, or some other option.
I guess
Would you consider suspending this assessment so that it's not due this week and is due as soon as these questions can be answered and these alternatives can be explored?
The billing, I'm Lynn Chambers and I'm the treasurer, and the invoice is going to go out on September 1st. And either the single payment or the multiple payments are due at the end of September.
The board can
change this.
Give you a chance, if you can't afford the $4,100, to pay in 2050 and 2050. And that was why we also,
It's a joke.
that was also why we opened up the credit card.
So
account.
again, all of the board, you are not willing to suspend even this to consider other options and other payment options for the homeowners. All of the board?
Full board.
Please answer the question.
All the board.
Can we see hands?
Yeah, let's see.
We're answering your questions.
No,
We see
so you
hands.
suspend it so that it's not due
I
this
just,
week.
I would appreciate it if you would keep it simple. When you suggest that we answer your questions, that's what you're suggesting. We're not here to answer questions. I am here to answer your questions. We were not in favor. We were not in favor of breaking it up because we need the money. We need half the money now.
Where's the
We
money
are
now?
asking you to do that
Let
now,
them
though.
finish.
Would you poll the board and make sure that every board member is not willing to negotiate?
Get a new board.
Well,
I thought I answered this question before when I said that I polled the board to find out if they wanted to change this assessment, and the answer is no.
This is changing the payment
It's a
term,
part of the assessment. It's a part of the legal
so you're not
document.
going to make any changes at all, no negotiation.
Well,
Yes or no?
yes.
I just have a simple question, if someone can't pay it.
If someone,
What happens?
so here's the way the HOA has
These
handled
people
that sort
want
of
a
thing in the
question,
past.
I hear they've been had their hand up for half an hour.
Pardon me, but you said you polled the board before, but, again, would you poll the board right now so that we can see
Right
both
now.
members?
How many of the board here seated is prepared to modify the payment terms of this assessment? Anyone who's in favor?
2, 3.
3.
I think that's enough, isn't it?
Yeah. Speak up, people.
Well, there's 2 board members missing, so.
So we don't know
So you
yet,
only
but
have 4 that are not willing to negotiate.
4 present.
There's 5.
There were 2 missing when you made this.
We have 1 board member missing, we have 2 seats open. So we have 1 board
Oh,
member
man.
missing.
We're there.
Can I come in here?
How did Dan vote?
Starting.
Of a Justin? No.
When association fees are collected, they are generally collected in proportion to the size of the unit. If you have a 1-bedroom unit, the fee is less than if you have a 3-bedroom unit. This assessment appears to not have any of that consideration, and I find that unfair.
I do too. However,
I'd take it if you wish. We also consider it unfair. Yes, and
Thank you.
We also consider it unfair, specifically spelled out in the bylines that we can't make that consideration in very clear text. We have wanted to amend the bylaws on a number of things, and we welcome that to improve our community. But the logistics of getting 75% approval is daunting indeed. It's not that people would be against it, it's simply that a quarter of the people wouldn't be able to respond and so forth. So, George, I take your point very well.
Except that when association fees become due, in other words, if you raise the annual fee, then that fee is proportioned based on square footage.
Yes.
So for you to say that it's illegal to do that
No,
sounds like it's contrary to what you already do.
Okay, so let me explain. We actually asked the people who have been working on the board for many years and have been present for 2 other assessments, whether any other assessments were assessed according to square footage. The tradition which we have followed in this HOA is not to do that. They didn't do it for the Mansons. They didn't do it, well, apparently the lawyer says they did. But did the lawyers? But in fact, this is the way this HOA has done it. And so we followed that pattern because we felt that we assumed that we were bound by the practices of the HOA going back, at least to when I came here. And I remember paying the Mansard assessment, and it was not proportional.
Yeah, so this is in the bylaws.
Stated very clearly in the bylaws.
So it wasn't a bylaw.
We have no option but to change the bylaws.
And if you guys want to change, I repeat what I said earlier, because it was in anticipation of these kinds of, challenges to the way this is being done, some of the features of the assessment. If 75% of you can get together and make a specific request for changes to the bylaws, which would cap assessments at a limit, stipulate how they're to be, introduced, how much time is given for, and so on. If there's nothing in the bylaws at this point that either doesn't prevent us from doing something like George suggested, or doing some of these other things. Second, please, just a minute. I'm saying, there are a lot of hands up. Please give me the opportunity to say yes to each of them.
John, a 3-part question. When the money is received from the assessment, will that amount of money allow for a reserve after the work has been done and needs to be done?
Yes. And
Okay.
the reason is because we will not have to spend the money that we normally get every year available for reserve, infrastructure reserve, we won't have to spend that money on these
Okay, secondly, how long will it take for the work to be completed?
3 years.
And when the work is completed, what kind of shape is this complex gonna be in?
We'll have
I
all
can
new
answer
roofs,
that.
all new siding, 2 new boilers, all new asphalt where it was rated, all repaired, all car repaired, all car.
So you're gonna have about 15 boilers left that will need to be replaced.
Then it's gonna be another assessment?
Um,
No, and about 15 hot water
Frank Loss?
systems.
You said this is a 3-year assessment, so I want to see how we can make this into a win-win. If it's a 3-year assessment, it's clear we need some immediate money now. So why do we not break it up into 3 assessments over 3 years? You'll get enough money to cover the roofs for this year, which you said is imminent. And I know what imminent means, because I've been under that kind of imminence. However, I want to put out, can we take a vote today, that we divide it up into 3 assessments, 3 years, rather than what you broke down. We already paid $1,000 last year. We raised our HOA fees in the way this gentleman had said, depending upon, some of us had $35, some of us had $25 more a month. So what if we do, if we divide 3 into 4,100, that would mean September, by the end of the month, maybe you can give us 30, 60 days, whatever, to come up with a third of 4,100, and then a third again the following year, and a third the following year.
By the way, since I was the one who sort of constructed the language and the structure of the assessment, I included a third page option of the type we were just referring to. And the board voted it down.
Let's
Well,
vote
can
now.
we re-vote right now?
Right now.
Another option.
So one thing is that if we, and Lynn is explaining the reasoning behind the decision not to go with the 3 lump sum payments, one-third, one-third, one-third. Apparently that means that we wouldn't have enough money to finish the project until a year later. So we pushed, well, and.
Well, it's a 3-year
and-
project.
and this-
ends on December 21.
Well, the world doesn't end. I mean, are these judgment calls? You bet, absolutely. And
Jason,
they're-
it's a 3-year project, so just think about that.
No,
I
it
mean,
would be longer because we would have to postpone starting some of these. Some of them can't be done at any time, just any time of the year. I wish the group was here, because he can certainly speak to them.
If we get money in 2012, September 2012, we need to do at least 2 roofs this year. If we got
And
another.
can we have a figure for that? Is that 200, that's 100,000 each?
Yes.
50,000 each?
All of this is on this sheet that everybody has.
You should know them.
Tell what sheet it is.
This is the backside of the letter.
If we got another
Highlight.
third.
Back side of this letter, other side of this letter.
If we got
At
another
the back,
third.
look at the project requiring priority attention and look down at the roofs, which are the things that we absolutely would have to do. So we need 50,000 earnest money and another 160,000 and
Jason, what about the amount of money that we pay in HOA dues to begin with, which is, what about that? Doesn't that get included to all of this?
No, we calculated the assessment without factoring in dues for the following reason. Your very good question about whether the reserves are going to be built up as a consequence of this assessment is on point. We decided not, I made a proposal at one point in all the many discussions that we try to steal from the annual budget to pay for part of this. The problem is that the board members pointed out to me that doesn't take into account the emergencies, which just put us where we are right now. We don't know that those won't happen again. So taking that money and assuming it won't be needed is simply setting up a situation in which, I will be having the same conversation with you 6 months, a year from now, after you have paid whatever part of this you paid, and where we need additional money, whatever the assessment would have been if we'd gone that route. So we decided not to use the budget, because in fact, we were, maybe I didn't emphasize this enough, we were essentially, in terms of what we could safely spend on any infrastructure needs, we were out of money as of June 15th. We had money in the bank, but we couldn't spend it because to spend it would have been to take us below the legally required limit that our bylaws state.
So,
What?
Can I talk about the
Please.
If we receive 700,000, then I know that many people will do the credit card payments and many people will need to do the 2 payments.
We are not gonna.
Okay. If we
It's
get,
not okay.
well,
It's not
okay. If we get 700,000 this September, we can do at least the 2 roofs. We're hoping that we can get some siding done too, perhaps, before it gets cold. We will have that 700,000 to carry us over into next year, so that next May or April, when it gets warm, we can continue to do the work. The second 700,000 will finish up that project and will allow us to finish all of our work by the end of the next 2.5 years. If we split this into 3s, we get 500,000 now. We run out of money in June or July, and we wait. And then we have to wait until the next money comes in. We're close to the winter. We got 500,000, but we can only do a little bit before the winter comes. So it's going to be spreading us out further. We won't be finished until 2014. That's why we broke it down into